English Teacher, Part 134. Straight lecture deliver. Well, it can be an efficient means of communicating basic facts, concepts, principles, generalizations, points of view, arguments about a particular area of knowledge. Lecture can also be usefully combined with other techniques such as discussions, visuals, demonstrations, or question and answer session. Depending on a variety of circumstances, you might deliver straight lectures or combine lectures with other methods of instructions, or use lecturettes to prepare your students for seat work. Lectures are those small sessions. In fact, lecture is a full-fledged session of delivering the monologue, and lecturette is in fact the small part of the lecture. When we distribute these lectures into small different parts, we call them lecturettes. Or you can prepare your students' seat work in whatever form you choose to use the lecturer. You can personalize your approach by inviting overt and at least covert student participation. You will find a lecture a valuable part of your instructional repertoire as long as you use it appropriately and selectively. Along with other strategies, the proportion of instructional time used for the classroom lecture usually increases. The grade level rises, in fact. Well, we've got a dramatic proof for you, and it's given in an example. The dramatic proof says, in one experiment that supplies the support this claim is the researcher arranged for the division of the course to be taught by the usual instructor, while the other was taught by the professional actors performing incognito. When term and examination results were compared, the students taught by the actors proved to have learned and retained dramatically more information. When we dramatized an information, of course, it remains in the memory of the audience and, of course, that of our students. Recipe for effective lecture. Plan to begin your lecture at assigned questions, sessions with stimulating advanced organizers or patron guides to pick your students' interest. Adapt the content and your style of the presentation to your students' developmental level by using words or speaking at a rate suitable to those levels. Avoid talking down. I beg your pardon, please. Show enthusiasm for the topic. You are teaching your students who will not be interested in a topic that does not interest you. Reinforce the points of your lecture and provide for transfer by relating key points to your students' experience, successes, or interest, drawing examples from your class, if possible, but taking care to avoid causing anyone embarrassment. Pause to ask for summaries at the beginning of your lesson, past learning during the presentation to check for the attention and comprehension, and allow for questions. And at the end to check for comprehension and allow for the questions. Pause also to provide emphasis to give your listeners chances to catch up by summarizing information for themselves. Invite covert participation by asking rhetorical questions or suggesting that students note points they may wish to ask about or discuss later on. Supplement your lecture by supporting key ideas with a generous number of visuals. Use the chalkboard and overhead projector, charts or slides. Do not read from notes or a text procedure, and promotes mechanical transfer of the information from those sources to your students' notebook while leaving the minds and memories of all parties almost undisturbed. Do not present too much information at once. 2 or 3 major points per half hour are enough. Selective use of lecture. Selective use of lecture involves remembering that your students' attention span has limits and assessing those limits realistically. It also involves assessing the extent of your students' future need of the information you will deliver And of course, the classroom time constraints make it impractical to linger over detailed information that your students are unlikely to need later on and will soon forget.